Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of HSP TV. I am, as always, your host, Barbara, and today I am joined by my wonderful guest, Angie McDermott. And today we are going to be talking about life hacks for empaths, HSPs, highly sensitive people, and ADHD-ers. So I've been looking forward to this topic because it's so relevant in today's world, and there are so many rapid shifts happening. The energy is kind of crazy. I don't know how it is for you, but my community and also myself are experiencing old shit coming up and sort of needing to be released, and a huge tiredness, and especially the highly sensitive people, the empath people, or what they now call the neurodivergent people, where ADHD falls under. We are more sensitive to these types of changes. So I think all of us, we could use some life hacks.
I agree. I agree. Well said. Well
Thank
said.
you.
And thank you so much for having me here. It's nice tuning into these communities of like-minded souls and
Yes.
just having this human experience and trying to figure out how to navigate it.
That's exactly why I started my community. It's called Solutions, Solutions of the Soul. And it is indeed for people like you, like me, like probably most people that are watching and listening today, to just connect with other people on a similar journey where you don't need that many words to feel heard, seen, and understood, and where we support each other, and where you can be everything that you are without shame, without apology, and just learn and grow together. And that's so needed because for most of us, we are very different from the rest of the world, and our experiences are very different from the rest of the world. And for most of us, including myself when I was a lot younger, that translates into us feeling weird or strange, or like there's something wrong with us. And that makes us feel like we need to put our square self into this round hole that everybody else seems to be fitting into quite nicely. And no matter how hard we hammer ourselves and try to stuff us down that round hole, we are square. It's never going to fit.
No, no. And so then a lot of times, and I love that analogy. I use that analogy as well. Um, a lot of times then we're just pretending and we're like, look, I'm the same shape as you, right? Right. And
I can be round.
oh, yeah, yeah, look at I'm just like you. Right, right. And so it is so wonderful connecting with more people. And I got goosebumps and a little choked up when you said in these communities where we can be understood without having to say too many words.
Mhm.
And when we talk about, them or us or we're, different than them, it's like we're all having this human experience, you
Yes.
know. However, we are all programmed differently and it seems that for those of us who resonate with the neurodivergent mindsets or energy or our nervous systems are wired, no matter how many words we say to the neurotypical people or those who are wired differently than us, they never understand where we're coming from, or at least
Don't
they
get
didn't
it.
before. At least they didn't before. I would like to think now that it is more understood. You and I, people like us, we've been doing this work for a long time, which means if we've been doing this for work for a long time and with others for a long time, we've been experiencing it and learning
Mm.
to understand ourselves for even longer.
Yes.
And I'd like to believe that people in our lives, whether they're neurodivergent, neurotypical, or anything in between, I really would like to believe that they're starting to understand.
In
And even
general.
if they don't actually get us, they're starting to understand that we're different, if anything.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to go to, because I generally think they can never understand unless they are one of us, truly understand. But I've always said you don't have to understand to accept that this is the way it works for me. I understand that this is the way it works for me. Have that type of understanding. You might still not understand the inner workings and the actual factness of it, and the things, and I don't expect you to. Honestly, I don't always understand it completely myself. And right, that's perfectly fine, but at least understand that for me it works this way, or for me it works different from the way it works for you, and see me in that, and accept that it is different even when you don't fully completely understand it.
Yes, yes, well said, well said. And learning to accept that about ourselves too. And so some of these life hacks that, I talk about, is something that you and I had talked about a little earlier. And you mentioned your old self. You were
Mhm.
talking about a life situation and said, here's how I'm responding to it now. And here's how my old self would have, and you didn't say this word necessarily, but we used to react. Many of us, our old selves, we used to react to situations.
Yes.
And many of us now are learning some of these life hacks to breathe, breath work. We'll talk about breath work in a little bit,
Mhm.
to tune into our higher selves and listen and find that discernment of deciding, of understanding, is this a fear and ego thing that's coming to me? Or is this a divine intuitive message that I should be listening to?
Yes.
And so I think a lot of our old selves, we did feel so misunderstood, and we misunderstood ourselves because the platforms for learning on this planet, I know you're in the Netherlands, I'm in the US, but generally on this planet, the platform for learning how to be a human hasn't always made sense to so many of us.
No.
And I believe it has caused so much physical things like the autoimmune disorders, the anxieties, the depression, the PTSD. I'm really finding the more that I ask
Burnouts.
people, so many people who suffer with anxiety, chronic pain, migraines, gut health, the PTSD stuff, many of them, of course, are considered neurodivergent or ADHD people. And I'm like, well, look at that. And so I believe when we say autoimmune, that means the body is fighting against itself. And
Yes.
so it's like there hasn't really been a platform for, hey, if you're a really highly sensitive person, here's a path for you. Here's a path for these people. Here's a path for men. Here's a path for women. Here's a path for different races. We've really tuned into a lot of these things, and I'm so grateful for how far we've come.
Yes. That's
And
a big
now I
part of the
believe
why.
it's time for us to have pathways that are for us. And I can go off on a huge tangent, so I'll bring myself back. But my bigger picture is to get the fluorescent lighting out of the schools and out of the corporate worlds.
Mhm.
Get some healthy vending machines out there for people who are really sensitive to the glutens and the chemicals and the color dyes. And then I get goosebumps thinking about those possibilities.
Mhm.
And I'm grateful that we're the grown-ups now on this planet, and we're starting to get there. People are making this a priority, even if they're not the highly sensitive people or whatever.
Mhm.
They're making it a priority. Very
You're
grateful.
absolutely right. That's a big part of the why behind this channel, the why behind why we're talking right now. When I went through all of these things and I had to discover who I actually am instead of who I was led to believe I was supposed to be. There wasn't a lot out there, and it was a lot of trial, a lot of error, a lot of falling, picking myself up again, dusting myself off, losing faith, but don't want to give up and trying again. And a lot of hardship. And this channel really is meant to inspire people, to let people know that they're not alone, that they're not weird, that they're not strange, that they're not cuckoo, that their concerns are real, that their experiences are real, and to give them some guidance already in this with these talks, some inspiration. And I remember when I was working still for the boss, we moved into what they called office gardens, which means that we didn't have a private office anymore. And they removed all the offices and then turned everything in one giant space. Well, that's killing for people that have a more sensitive, finely tuned nervous system, because you pick up on everything, all the sounds, all the smells, all the visuals, all the energies of everybody, everything.
Whew. Yeah, without that little sacred space, without that little
Yeah, if you have
right.
your own office, you can make sure, like, yeah, my nature painting behind me, that you have a beautiful nature painting and that you have colors that soothe you. And you could even do something with aromatherapy, that it
Mhm.
smells nice, and not too many other stimulants in there. And you can control your energy in the room. And if you're a little bit off, then you close the door, and you can protect
Yeah.
yourself better. So it's manageable, which is just not doable when you have this cubicle in a space that you share with 20 to 50 other people.
Right. Wow. Right. And thank you for bringing that up. And that's why I focus on, I'm turning my focus to more of like that really big picture, because I've been doing, group coaching or one-on-one coaching, but I've also done some corporate trainings on
Mhm.
effective communication and how to manage stress and anxiety. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of really miserable people in those offices,
Yes.
and that's why it kind of came to me like, okay, there's some big changes that could be made. And I'm grateful that, because my old self has been pouty and pissed off and felt ostracized and giving up and losing hope and all those things. And so, but that means that I was feeling all those things, and I choose to shift that vibration in me and be grateful for the little bits of changes that are happening for
Mhm.
those corporations and big, the man, as you call it, like the big, people who are in charge of thousands of people or hundreds of people in their buildings, and they actually are learning to care. Now, whether or not it's for the overall well-being of the company, that's up to them, but what you were talking about, or whether they truly truly care about their employees or whether it's just for the bottom line, is what I'm saying. Either way, I'm grateful that it's happening.
Yes.
And I choose to focus on that. I choose to focus on, cool, look at all these companies now who have wellness departments, who
Mhm.
have a massage therapist come in once a month or whatever they're doing. I appreciate it, because
Mhm.
the situation that you were describing, where now nobody has that sacred space anymore, and for some people that's really difficult. what
Yes.
i what I see happening in that, and we can go back to kids in school also, let's go back to little children, because grown-ups are just older children. In
Yes.
school or in the corporate world or anything, in those situations where you're now forced to be in an uncomfortable situation, that, like you said, the smells and the sounds, or even just the feels, a lot of us can pick up on other people's energies and feels. Now what they're going to have to do, if they want to keep that job, and if they want to keep their house, they have to keep the job. Now they're going to have to go on some kind of drugs so that they can manage going to work every day, because it's too
Yes.
much.
Exactly.
And getting up to go to work in the morning can be, now you're dreading it, because it was already kind of bad enough that you had to go to work, right? And now you don't even have your sacred space anymore, which feels unsafe. And
Mhm.
those are some of those things that some people might not ever understand. It's going to bring tears to my eyes. It literally feels unsafe. And maybe neurotypical people are going, what do you mean not safe? You're in a safe building, you have a safe chair. It's a different kind of safety. And it does, look at it, gets me emotional.
I remember that when I had to be in that space, they at first put me at the end corner of a cubicle collection, but that meant that my back was towards the middle of the room. That made me feel
Oh,
incredibly unsafe. And I said, I want to be with my back against a wall so that I know that nobody can sneak up on me or nobody can stand behind me all of a sudden or any of those things. And most coworkers didn't understand that need, but other people like us will understand immediately. It's all the energies and everything that comes. It's not even that you are afraid of being attacked, because
right,
of course
right.
you're not going to be physically attacked. Nobody's going to stab you with a knife or do
Right,
whatever. But
right.
it's the assault of everybody's energy and the sounds and the smells and everything that you cannot see because it's happening behind your back, that is making you feel extremely unsafe. And for me, that resulted in postponing my bedtime on Sunday evening. Because as
Mm.
soon as I went to bed, the next moment would be waking up on Monday morning and having to go.
Having to go to work. Yes.
And as crooked as
Right,
it is, in
right.
my twisted brain, it was, if I postpone my going to bed time, then I postpone having to go to work.
Right, right, right. Whether that makes sense or not. Right, right, right. And those are those like safety mechanisms that we've all learned since we were young, on how to function without feeling too much pain. And again, the
Mhm.
fear and the pain, they're like, what do you mean? You're not going to get attacked at work. Are you in physical pain? Do you need medicine? It's like, it's not like that, you know? And so in those situations, whether they're children or adults, going on anxiety medications, going on depression medications is
Antidepressants.
what seems to be the next step. And
Either
so,
that or indeed addictions, because that it's either going to your doctor and then sort of being made a zombie, a walking zombie with anxiety or depression medication, which is what happens. It takes away the highs and but also the lows. It
right,
takes away, it makes it like flat, everything. Or we start sort of self-medicating. And I've seen clients with sex addiction,
right,
drug addiction, marijuana addiction, booze addiction,
right.
any type of addiction,
Working,
basically.
working addiction, shopping addiction, sugar addiction, and we haven't even mentioned like cigarettes, alcohol, like
Yeah,
all
yeah,
of those.
yes, exactly.
Right.
And
And
that
it's a
is indeed
mhm.
to numb your senses, to take away the overstimulation that is happening a bit very physically with cigarettes, drug abuse, alcohol, and that because it alters your chemical state and it makes you less open, so
Yeah,
less comes in.
right. It numbs those receptors so that
Yes,
you're not feeling as much.
exactly.
Which
Well, shopping addiction and similar sex addiction, they are more coping mechanisms for after the fact.
right, right. So like you said, the coping mechanisms. And so learning these life hacks, as I call them, shows us how to enter those situations without being numb, because
Hmm.
so many of us have been taught that our superpowers, as I call them, I used to call them, like, I would say that, and I am officially diagnosed ADHD now, whatever that's worth. I have all the symptoms of Asperger's and autism as well. I have like 19 out of 22 of the main symptoms, but look at what I just called it, symptoms, like
Hmm.
it's an illness. Whew. So one of the biggest hacks, and you've already mentioned a couple of them, which is so wonderful. Our mindset hacks is to listen to our words. We are conscious creators of our reality. Our words, our words create our reality. And so, oh, I have all the symptoms of autism or ADHD. Well, doesn't that just sound like I just told you I'm sick? These are
Yes,
superpowers, baby. These are superpowers, right? We just were never taught how to use them. And so numbing them with whatever, we're doing to numb them, I think is really unfortunate, because those sensitivities can be turned into something magical. We've just never been nurtured. There was just never a path to say, oh, hey, are you this highly sensitive person? Look at what you can do. Like, oh, if you're athletic, look at what you can do. If you're a strong woman, look at what you can do. If you're this, we were never really given much guidance of what we can do with these. We're getting there. We're getting there. They're teaching empathy in Denmark, I think,
very good.
teaching empathy. Oh, I
Hmm.
got goosebumps on that. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. More people are aware of what the foods are doing to exasperate some of those symptoms, the brain fogs and the gut health. 90% of our serotonin is created in our gut.
Hmm.
And so if we're, I've struggled, I can tell you my list of addictions that I've struggled with in my life, and sugar is definitely a huge one,
Hmm.
and alcohol goes along with it. Alcohol is another sugar. And so killing my gut because I'm not comfortable and happy in my environment. So killing my gut, well, now not only do I have the anxiety, but now I'm having depression because my serotonin levels are down. I mean, it's a real vicious cycle. It really is.
I
And
compare it
so,
to domino stones. When one topples over and it hits the next, it hits the next, it hits the next, it hits the next, and before you know it, you're flat.
you're down. Yeah, you're down. And then when you get back up, you just go down again. And so a lot of times we've learned not to get up,
Yes.
and then life sucks.
Hmm.
And so listening to yourself. So in your situation, if you're okay with me still using your work situation that you were talking about, if we can use that, you listened to yourself. So here's I was talking about the discernment between like fear and ego and like divine intuition.
Yes.
So fear and ego could say, and our old selves, like you said too, our old selves would go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to sit at the end of this cubicle. Oh my gosh, you know, and then Sunday night is hell. And, you know, Monday morning is worse, you know. And again, I'm going to have to go on medications or something to make myself so I can cope. Okay. So I understand that's fear and ego going, oh my gosh, this is not okay. This is not okay. Higher self, when we can learn to say, okay, fear, I hear you. What can I do about it? And we can't ask other people because we can't expect them to understand. But we ask our higher selves, or we pray, we tune in. All right, what can I do about this? Oh, I can ask to be moved. I'd rather have my back to the wall. And to go and ask, that takes a lot of courage, Barbara, because we've been the weirdos, the sensitive ones, right? And so, whatever, who cares about that anymore, right? There's enough of us now. There's enough of us now that at least we're understanding each other and we're gaining the courage to say, this seating space isn't working for me. Even
Mhm.
if you don't understand why, it would be a lot better for me and for your productivity. If we have to look at it from the CEO point of view, you know
Mhm.
what? You want me to be more productive? I'm super overwhelmed with all this stimulation people around me. If I could just have my back to the wall, I'll be a better worker for you.
And then you have to know I was the only female in a male-dominated work environment, and as females, we're already labeled as sensitive or too sensitive, and then complaining of having to sit there and needing to ask a male coworker to switch places. He didn't want to, so I had to go to my manager and explain the whole situation. And he said, "I understand," and he asked the coworker to switch with me, and then he couldn't say no, and it
Right.
happened. But old me would probably not have had the courage to do that and would have just sucked it up, buttercup, and would have sit there miserable and further declined in towards burnout, probably.
Right. Which isn't good for the company. It's not good for your well-being, and it's not good for your loved ones around you at home either.
No.
It's that domino effect again,
Yes.
you know? And so again, instead of, because my old self would go, nobody understands us. Life is hard. Nobody understands us. But I'm done with that old story. Truly. I can't live in it anymore. It has made me sick for too long, you know? And so to look at the new story, and I'm like, yes, she did it. One person, that's all it takes is one person saying, this is uncomfortable for me. You don't understand? Okay, then I guess I'm going to have to even go to the boss and explain the situation, which is super uncomfortable.
Yes.
But you did it for your well-being and technically for the well-being of the company too. You're not going to
Hmm.
be a good worker if you're sitting there in fear, right?
No.
Right. And
But
so that's one of the really good life hacks is listening to that inner self. If you have some fear, anxiety, gosh, I really don't want to go to that dinner party. Oh gosh, I'm sick to my stomach. Sit with yourself for a minute and say, okay, self, okay, I hear you.
mhm.
But part of me does want to go, right? Part of us, we do want to go to these things. And we can ask ourselves, okay, what about it don't you like? Well, every time I go in there, it's too hot, or the people are too loud, or the smells are overwhelming, you know?
Mhm.
And so then from our higher self again, talking to that inner child, talking to that fear, saying, okay, well, I hear you. I hear you. It's too much. Have you ever seen these new little rings that you can put in your ear? They're like little gold rings and you can set them in your ear and it drowns out some of the sound. You can still
Ah,
hear everything, but it softens everything and they are so wonderful. I'll see if I can find the name of them and I can even put a link, you know,
that would be awesome. I have never heard of them. For that reason, I often use noise canceling headphones.
but then it cancels everything out. Now you're not a part of that dinner gathering or whatever it is that we're trying to
Yes.
go to, but we're overwhelmed. So now we're going to, so then when we don't go, we feel it's not very empowering when we don't go.
No.
And then
And it
we
can
often beat
be
ourselves up.
negative for your career sometimes, right?
Oh, and for your social life and just makes us not really empowered when parts of us wants to go. If
Mm-hmm.
it's just a clear no, that's beautiful. But if part of you really wants to go, but you're like, oh man, it's just sit with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people say meditate on it or pray about it. Just ask yourself, what's up? Why don't you want to go? Oh, well, oh, the fear says, oh, this and this and this. Well, okay, can we remedy any of those? It's too loud. I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
We have those little beautiful golden things. A friend gave them to me. She said, here, I think you'd like these. I said, you're right. I did.
Yeah.
like them. If it's always too hot in there, now you know, wear layers, but maybe your fear didn't really know that until you asked it, you
Mhm.
know? Or too many people come up and talk to you. I love people, but sometimes I do get overwhelmed with, and so learn to have healthy boundaries is another life hack. Take webinars, take courses on learning healthy boundaries, because what those are ways to allow people and experiences into our lives in a
Yes.
comfortable way for us, because otherwise they're just walls and we just block it all out,
Yeah.
or we get trampled over, which, then we'll be down for days afterwards. Well, if
Yes.
I go to that, my energy is going to be drained and I'm going to be down for 4 days. It doesn't have to be like that anymore. And
No,
so
healthy boundaries and emotion management and energy management also
yeah,
are important
practice
pillars in what I do
it.
with the people that come to me, because uh, what we are talking about, and that's also why we're talking about old self and new self. These are things that we needed to learn, that we had to learn, and that's now what we help other people with. So it's not that we were born this way with all of this knowledge. It's also a lot of trial and error and getting back up and trying things. And so healthy boundary setting is a very important thing, but also making sure that you're really grounded and that you are breathing from the right place. And breath work is also something we touched upon. So
Right,
what I see with most of my clients is that they are breathing from up here.
right.
And if we are being really honest to ourselves, when we start to get emotional, how does that show up? Usually
Mm-hmm.
it's a lump in your throat. It's tense neck, tense shoulders. It's maybe this stinging sensation behind the eyes, tears of crying, a headache, pressure. So all of these things happen up here, right?
Yep.
And if you're already breathing up here, then it's very easy to overflow into all of these sensations. But when you breathe from your belly, when you connect to your power source that's right beneath your navel, then the way of your breath is a lot longer. And this helps you become the boss of your emotions. It helps prevent the quick overflowing, the quick overwhelm that so many of us suffer from. And it helps you to manage wherever you are a lot better than it would be without these hacks.
Mm. Yes, yes. Well said. That's so beautiful. And I like how you said that it's almost just fueling more of that. When I do guided breath work, which I would love to do here in a minute, and invite everyone to do some breathing with us. Um, what I've learned is that when we breathe from these upper parts, we just stay acidic. When we can breathe fully down to our lungs, and I can invite everyone right now, and when we're going to breathe in a minute, I invite everyone listening, watching, to put your hands on your rib cage and look at how far down those ribs go. Even now, I'm surprised, like, wow, they do go down really far. That's how far down our lungs go, too.
Yes.
And so, those bottom parts of our lungs, first of all, I believe there's old stagnant air and energy down there because it hasn't been circulated. If you're only breathing right here, you're
Shallowly,
never
yeah.
getting to the bottom. There's old energy stuck there, And so to fully breathe, not only is it not acidic anymore, but when you do like a 4x4 breath work or a square breath work, we'll talk about that in a minute. It's known to alkalize your body, and so you're in a more alkaline based. And it rids you of the PTSD symptoms and stuff.
I love that.
Do that, but it has to be. You can sit here and do 4x4. So basically, you breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, exhale for 4, hold that for 4, and then do that 4 times. Is the 4x4 breath work. It's just real quick and easy. It actually takes less than 1 minute. We'll do it here in a minute.
Love that
But
one.
holy
I do
cow,
that
it is
often.
so powerful. But
Yes.
if you're just doing it here,
Less
it's
powerful.
not it's not as powerful.
Yes.
Sure. And so yeah, that's wonderful. And staying grounded, like you said. And so we can, we can say these things and a lot of people know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But other people are like, okay, what do you mean healthy boundaries? Where do I get those?
Yeah. Can
um,
I buy them at Walmart?
where do
Yeah.
I get that from? You know what I mean? And it literally takes practicing at home, practice in the mirror. Like if we're going to talk about that social environment we were talking about, but feeling overwhelmed, practice saying, I would love to talk to you about this another time. Right now, my energy is in a different place, so you have to excuse me, but I look forward to seeing you another time.
Mhm.
Or and then just walk away. It's not rude. It's a healthy boundary.
Yes.
It's rude to ourselves to sit there while someone's talking to us and we're going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. First of all, that's rude to us. And it's
Mhm.
rude to them because we're not even really listening.
Mhm.
And so a healthy boundary, sometimes people think that's rude. Oh, they just said they weren't in the mood to talk about that. How rude. People are learning that healthy boundaries are okay. And I think it's even
Yes.
more rude to sit there and not listen because I'm overwhelmed in my head. And I think it's rude to myself because now I'm going to be a mess for my loved ones around me for the next 48 hours, you
The
know?
thing that really helped me in this is hearing and then fully incorporating that when I say no to somebody else, I am saying yes to me. And that is it, right? You're not saying no to someone else, you're saying yes to yourself, because you need to make sure that you are okay. You need to manage yourself because nobody else will do that for you. And you cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot be a lively conversation partner when you just want to flee and crawl into bed. And I'll talk to people. So a step in between that I often advise people is the bathroom is your best friend. And what that means is that when someone corners you or says something or asks you something and you feel put on the spot, or you're like, you're freezing or something, right? Then you can say, well, I love that question. Hold that thought. I need to go to the little girl's room, little boy's room, whatever you are, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And this buys you time. It buys you
Beautiful.
time to not only think about what they want to talk about, but it also buys you time to actually go to that toilet and maybe ground yourself some more, or do that 4x4 breathing
Right.
technique to
Right.
connect with yourself before going back out there and talking with people. And if you're really feeling shitty after all of that, then it's also a great way of sneaking out and going home.
Yeah, yeah, but that's okay too.
Yes.
And that's okay too if you're okay with that. Again, when there's parts of us who don't want to leave, like I didn't want to leave, but I got overwhelmed by that one question or whatever, it's like to be really empowered in ourselves and to be able to stand in our truth and stand in who we are. And it's getting easier. More people are understanding. More people are understanding when we can say, you know what, my nervous system is a little fried right now, or my brain is a little bit scrambled. So I hear your question, but there's so many other things going on right now.
Mhm.
And if those people don't get that, or if they want to discriminate or ridicule you, then maybe it's okay that that person isn't in your life. And I
Yes.
believe when we're true to ourselves like that with integrity, accountability, authenticity. Authenticity is, I'm really overwhelmed right now. Accountability is, I want to listen to your story, but I forgot to ground myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Integrity is having integrity to ourselves, but also with our word. And if we do have to, if all of a sudden we are weird or rude or something, coming back with integrity and saying, I know that I responded a little strange to that. I do get overwhelmed with energy. I couldn't even hardly hear what you were saying, and just having those things for ourselves, I believe will attract those around us
Yes.
who do understand, who can create safe space, who can say, oh, you're feeling overwhelmed right now. Do you want to do some breathing with me? And you're like, oh my gosh, you're my best friend. You know what I mean?
You're
Um,
touching upon a very important topic because many people tell me, yeah, but if I do that, then people won't like me. The people will not talk to me. People will not accept me, or reasons that are similar to that. And
right, right.
uh, an important thing that I really want to put out there for the listeners and the watchers here today is um, honesty is always the best policy. When you say, I would love to talk to you about it, but right now I am not in the right frame of mind, not in the right energy, or whatever is going on to be able to talk to you about that. Could we park this discussion for another day and then have this talk? Because I do really want to talk to you about it, but just not right now. Would that be okay? The people that are worth having in your life will always respond with, sure, yes,
Or
okay, fine. the people that you do not want to have in your life are the ones that are going to make an issue out of it, are the ones that are going to make you feel this big instead of just accepting you,
Right.
are the ones that are going to judge or going to be harsh or going to make fun or
Or
whatever
feel
type of
offended.
negative response. And this is something that tells you very accurately whom to invest energy in and whom to walk away from. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I really
Beautiful.
want you to hear that. I really want you to feel that, because for many of us, this is a huge problem in setting these healthy boundaries and guarding these healthy boundaries, because what will people think? What will people say? What will be the result?
Right, right. And then feeling ostracized. I remember when I joined your Facebook group, one of the questions was, uh, do you resonate with being a highly sensitive person, a empath, a rule breaker, whatever you said, which one of these or all of these, and how does that make you feel?
Yeah.
And I said, yes, all of those. And I said, it makes me feel empowered and ostracized.
Mm-hmm.
Ostracized meaning I'm not a part of anybody.
Yes.
And that can be a real bummer when we're trying to function on this planet with everybody. And
Mm-hmm.
so thank you for pointing all that out, and I'm glad that we both agree that we're both saying the same things. And
Yes.
I believe being able to speak up like that and being able to have those healthy boundaries and effective communication is another one of the big things that I focus on, is effective
Yes.
communication.
Mm-hmm.
I believe a lot of that comes from self-love. It was one of the first basic things on
Yes.
my journey. I struggled. I suffered with autoimmune disorders for 25 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't anymore. I've reversed them all, and that might be a talk for a whole nother time.
Yes.
Is how I went through shifting all of that, and a lot of it had to do with diet and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the main thing was self love. And
Yes.
again, for those of you out there who are wondering, okay, cool, self love, how do I get that? Where do I get
Yeah.
that?
How does that work?
Where
Yeah.
do I get that? Again, I just started with YouTube videos and stuff like that. Affirmations for self love, the binaural beats, or listening to YouTube for
Arpeggio
self love.
frequencies. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, is so powerful. And even a couple of years ago, maybe just 2 years ago, I found myself really down again, back into addictions again, back into negative thinking that the world is against me. And when I got up, I said, okay, Ange, I can't live in this anxiety again. I lived like that for so long. I choose not to live like that anymore. What do I need to do here? And I said, oh my gosh, do I need to go back to my self-love lessons? Like 101, and I almost beat myself up for it. Like, oh, geez, did I forget my self-love? Like, what the heck? And like beat
Mm-hmm.
myself up a little bit. And the beautiful souls around me said, well, self-love isn't just a one-time exercise.
No, it's something you need to choose every day,
Oh,
just like happiness.
oh, Bobby. It was so humbling. I was like, of course, of course.
Yeah.
And another beautiful friend, because I said, man, I can't believe I have to go back to step one,
Mm-hmm.
And they said,
Yeah.
no, you don't. It's a spiral, right? You might be back at self-love, but before you didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And now that's exactly the medicine you need. And I get emotional thinking about it because I'm so grateful that I'm not alone, that I have people in my life reminding me that that's important, not telling me to go get on pharmaceuticals, which
Yeah.
I've had plenty in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but they don't serve me. And so self-love is really big. You were saying the grounding stuff, there's different ways we can ground. We can literally take our hand and put it on our forehead. Whenever someone does something, we're like, oh man, we automatically, oh, well, there's a reason for that. We, besides our physical body, it's housing our energy. We are energy, like a battery. A battery is awesome, but it's just a battery. It's not
Mm-hmm.
actually the battery that we're interested in. It's the energy inside.
Yes.
But what makes it work is when the positive and negative are activated. And so that's why we go like this. That's why we do these. And so coming back to ourselves, literally take a breath, pick one foot up and then the other, ground yourself, put your hand here. Whew, that'll ground you. Remembering I am worthy, I am enough. That'll ground you. The 4x4 breathing, it'll ground you. And one last thing I just wanted to touch on was herbs and essential oils. I have found to be very helpful in reminding me when I can't breathe, when I am not able to say I love myself and I'm worthy and I'm enough. that's when I know I need to get any bad foods that I'm eating. And when I say bad foods, it's like gluten or cheese or nitrate meats or things like that. And I need to get my herbs back in. There's
Hmm.
adaptogen herbs. And again, I can put links to some of these things if anyone's interested in some of the herbs that I've been using for like 15 years now. They're adaptogen herbs, the magnesium, valerian, passiflora, the schisandras, the ashwagandhas, the rhodiolas for, oh my gosh, and then
Hmm.
maca and things like that for my hormones. I was a
Yeah.
hormonal mess for so many years. Again, that's like a whole nother show.
Yeah.
But the herbs and oils, and again, I'm so grateful for people in my life, including my mother, who, she wasn't into these things. She's learning about me. But if I'm like, oh, mom, I can't stop crying, or I'm angry, or I'm irritable, she'll say, well, do you need to take your maca? Do you need to take your B vitamins? And I say, oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And they really do work. I believe we can do it without the medicines, without the herbs. But sometimes if, my children will say, go ahead and take your breaths, mom, do your breathing. And sometimes I'm just up here and I'm like, well, I can't, I guess, because I can't. I can feel that I take
Hmm.
those herbs, put some oils on, or breathe some oils.
Yeah.
And it really does help us get back into our body. Because when we're like that, we're out of our body. It doesn't feel good to be here. It's
No.
uncomfortable. It's full of anxiety. And so we do anything to leave the body.
Exactly.
Well, that's not going to help.
Yeah.
How do we get back? Do some calming herbs, eat some nurturing foods,
Yes.
things like
And do the 4x4 breathing. So that's something I would love to do with our viewers and our watchers before we need to
that.
wrap up our session today. So could we do some breath work together?
Perfect. I would love that. Thank you so much. So I will ask you and me and anybody who would like to join us, not while you're driving, please.
Yeah.
um, so even if you have to come back, those who are listening and watching, even if you have to come back to these last couple of minutes, it'd be really cool to breathe with you. And so I just ask that we do one nice big breath to kind of just tune in. And I like to close my eyes for this and tune everything else out. Whatever you were doing a minute ago, whatever you have to do after this, just set it down for a minute. We can pick it back up. And if you're sitting, sit up a little bit straight. You can feel your sit bones getting activated. I often do chakras when we do this, but again, maybe that'll be for another talk. Activating your sit bones. If you're standing, get comfortable where you're standing. Not tense, but get comfortable where you're standing. And then we'll go ahead and we're going to do a breath in for 4. We're going to hold it. And we'll breathe out for 4 and hold that for 4. And we're going to do that 4 times. And I may or may not add a mantra to go with it. But as we're sitting here, you can put your hands on your lap if you'd like, or in prayer hands, or fingers together. And I'll go ahead and invite you now to go ahead and start your breathing in for 4 seconds. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4. Hold it and expand it there. 2, 3, 4. Exhale slowly out of your mouth. 3, 4. Keep exhaling or hold it. 2, 3, 4. Breathing in again, bringing your shoulders up to your ears. Breathing in, holding it there for 4 seconds. 2, 3, 4. And exhale out. Go ahead and relax your shoulders. Drop them down. 3, 4. Holding that. 2, 3, 4. On this breath in, nice slow breath in through your nose. Picture a silver thread pulling your spine up nice and tall. 3, 4, and holding it there. And as you exhale out in 1 second here, go ahead and exhale out, dropping your shoulders, relaxing your tummy up, but keeping your spine nice and tall. Exhaling out, exhaling out. And on this last breath in, feel that breath going all the way down to the bottom of your lungs. Breathing in, take that breath all the way down to the bottom of your lungs, holding it there, filling up all of your lungs. And on this nice exhale out all the way out from the bottom of your lungs. Go ahead. Keep exhaling out, exhale out, keep going as much as you can. Keep going. And then another refreshing breath in. You can roll your shoulders. Oh, you can make a sound. And here, if you'd like, you can hunch over, let your tummy stick out. A lot of times we're holding our tummy in. relax your pelvic floor, pull your pelvic floor up. A lot of times we're pushing that out. Wiggle your hands and your toes. You can open your eyes if you're coming back here. The affirmations that can go with that I learned from Thich Nhat Hanh. As I breathe in, I relax my body. And as I breathe out, I smile. As I breathe in, I relax my body. And as I breathe out, I smile. When you get used to this, it takes 1 whole minute and it can feel so good. If anyone
Yes.
wants to comment how they're feeling right now.
Exactly. Let us know in the comments how this was for you, what you experienced, and maybe also what your biggest insight was out of what we talked about today. What was really eye-opening, or what do you absolutely agree with, or even what do you not agree with at all? But please also let us know why. All of these comments would be very welcome. And maybe you could also consider subscribing to the channel and maybe sharing this episode with your followers, your tribe, because you never know who you know that needs to hear what we are talking about here today. And you would be doing them a big service by sharing this episode. So if it was valuable to you, please share the love with the people that you are knowing. And I can imagine that if you enjoyed this as much as I did, that you would also love to know where you can find Angie or how you can contact Angie. So where can people find you or contact you, Angie?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I do have a couple of different places. Of course, all the social medias. Um, Angie McDermott is usually the name. I have a website under Infinity Wellness Group. I can post a Calendly link if anyone wants to hop on and have like a no charge connection call, a consultation call, and just share things. Um, yeah, I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram and all those places, and I'm always open to connecting with like-minded people because we all learn and grow from each other. And of
Yes.
course, I offer, public speaking and one-on-one coaching, but it's really about creating this community. And so, thank you, Barbara, so much for all of this, and thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you so much for being here, Angie. And no worries, I'll make sure that all Angie's links are included in the show notes, probably below this video. I, of course, also offer a free coffee chat if you feel like you want to talk to me and explore maybe whatever it is that's on your mind. All of those links will, of course, also be below this video. So for today, thank you, Angie, for being here. And thank you for your ongoing support, for always watching these episodes, for sharing your comments, your likes, and all the other love that you're showing for my channel and for my TV shows. Thank you, and have an amazing rest of your day today.